And Northern England tonight, drier in Scotland and the south, a low of 6. Tomorrow, scattered showers for most, largely dry over the northwest, a high of 19 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm David Dom.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale.
Hello, a very good evening. It's 9 on LBC. It's like red buses coming along at the moment with Tory leadership candidates. Esther McVey, you are fourth in line for our interview and phone-in. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you launched your campaign yesterday alongside a picture of Margaret Thatcher on the lectern, which a lot of people thought was a little weird.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. That wasn't the launch of my campaign.
Oh, wasn't it? Oh, everybody says it was.
I know they do. No, I was speaking at a Bruges group event, and it was about Brexit. So that was their stage.
Right,
that was their event, and I was speaking at it. But yes, I read in the papers that so that wasn't what happened and what it was about. But never mind, that's fine.
Why are you standing? Because you would probably admit yourself you are one of the underdog candidates here. What has driven you to stand? What makes you think you could do a better job than maybe some of the people who are leading the race at the moment?
Well, you're right. I'm an outsider. And being a Conservative on Merseyside, I'm used to being an outsider, so I can deal with that. But it's actually about the agenda that I'm bringing forward that nobody else has got or is wanting to do. And so I am the sort of person who goes out speaking to people. I've set up blue-collar Conservatism. I've been going around the country speaking to people. And it is very, very clear, speaking to people outside, people would call it the Westminster bubble or the media bubble. People say, you've got to deliver Brexit. That is key. We can't move on until we've done that. Trust has fundamentally been lost with the public. They all thought we were coming out of the EU, the biggest ever democratic vote in history. They all thought we were coming out on the 29th of March. We didn't. That fundamentally broke trust with Parliament, with politics. They can't understand why after 3 years they just haven't delivered on this. Now, beyond that, once Brexit is delivered, I've set out an agenda straight away to put £4 billion into schools. We know we need that to go into the core education budget. We need £1 billion for special education and disability, and we need £1 billion for further education, and £3 billion straight away to the police. And it's a professional.
That's £7 billion. That's quite a lot of tax increases.
It isn't, because I'm the only one with a funded proposal, and that's because I'm going to take back the foreign aid budget to the historically high levels of 2010, because it's the only budget that's pretty much doubled from 2010 to now. And what we've got to say... So you want to take
money from the poorest people in the world and give it back to people in this country? That's effectively what you're doing.
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is we're going to keep to the historically high levels and support people in need, humanitarian aid and support. We're going to do all of that. But at the moment, back at home, you've got schools crying out for money that they need to teach young kids here. We've got the police saying, look at the crime on the streets. We need money back here. And that is for the vulnerable people back at home.
Foreign aid budget? There are many ways you could raise £7 billion. You could put an extra tax on, I don't know, the tech companies that are raking so much money in at the moment, but most people think they're not paying their fair share of tax. So why would you raid the foreign aid budget?
Because this was the only budget that had an arbitrary target set at 0.7%, and it has grown and it has expanded, and £1 billion already is spent on consultancy fees. We know some of that money is not spent, as there is a rush at the end of the year to spend it. We know places have their own, whether it's space programmes. We know airports have been built and actually the runways are in the wrong direction because of the winds. What we are saying is there are vulnerable...
Where has that happened?
There are vulnerable people back at home. It's in one of the continents abroad. We know we've got that airport where we can't take off and land because of the winds, the crosswinds there. But what we've got, Iain, is people in the UK who are the most vulnerable here that we have got to look after.
Aren't you proud, though? Andrew Mitchell, who is very respected in this area, he describes Britain now as an international development superpower. And isn't that a good place for Britain to be? If we're going to be a global Britain, surely that's what you want Britain to have a reputation as for that.
We do, and we will continue spending. And we spend more.
Well, not if you halve
than
the budget,
other,
we won't.
No, we will continue spending where it's needed. But Iain, people know, you must know too, that schools, and I believe in social mobility, I believe in empowerment back at home, and what we can't do is take away from the poorest people in the UK.
But that's what you've been doing for 10 years. You voted to cut school funding, you voted to cut police numbers.
What we had when we took over the budget in 2010, as you well know, the economy was in a bad place. We came in and everybody knew they had to tighten their belt. And this is another promise I've done. From 2010 to 2015, the public sector, everybody tightened in their belt because they said, you know what, we're going to get the country back on track.
But you can't now sit there complaining that schools and the police are underfunded when you voted for them to be underfunded.
Because we were, for every £4 we were spending, we were having to borrow £1. The economy was in a bad way. We won the election to turn the economy around to get it back on track, and that's what we did. So that was 2010 to 2015. In 2015, when we won the general election, people could see what we were doing. We said we'll finish the job. But it is now 2019, and this is another pledge I've done, and that is a public sector pay guarantee. Because now we have to say to those people who helped turn the economy round, we're going to give you a pay increase because it is about time for all of the work you've done.
So how much is that going to cost?
What we're going to do. That actually works out for, it's 8 out of 10 of all public sector employees. It's those on £50,000 or less, and it will cost up to 2.3 billion a year. And I'll tell you where the money's coming from that. As we know, Phil Hammond has put money aside, which he wanted to do for after Brexit, about £27 billion there. That's one budget's through. And equally, I believe that the economy will grow. It's already grown significantly till 2010. So it'll either come out from the growth of the economy or the money that we've got put aside, because we have to do that now. For me, I can't be a one nation Conservative if there is a North and there is a South, if there is a difference between private sector workers and public sector workers. No, we've got to all come together, and that's what I would do if I were leader of the party, is to reach out and support all those people up and down the country. Really vital stuff.
Blue collar conservatism, which you're very big on. You've there's a pledge on this, isn't there? I mean, how many of the other candidates have taken that up?
There's about nearly 100 MPs now who've signed up, because I did this actually, it's well before the leadership campaign. In fact, originally set it up in 2012.
But have any of the other candidates signed it?
There's got other MPs signing it. Actually, I don't know if they did, but we've got 100 MPs who've signed it. But what this is about...
But do you think many of those other candidates actually even know what you're talking about when you talk about blue-collar conservatism? You've got 8 of them educated at Oxford. You've got several of them have been to Eton. Do they even live in the same world as you?
I'm sure they do, because I know Dom Robb today wrote on Con Home that he wanted to help blue-collar Conservatives. I know Sajid wanted to join up. I don't know if he did, but he came to me and spoke about it, and maybe they didn't because they were then going to do the leadership. But actually it's been set up, and lots of people are involved in. And this is just, I'd call them regular workers up and down the country, going out every day, happy to work, happy to pay into the system, and they just want a fair crack in life. They just want to get on, and what they need to know is that there is a government making sure that their kids can have a good education. That's why I say about the education budget, knowing that the streets are going to be safe for them and their children, and also looking at transport systems. They just want to make sure that the government is doing right by them.
I should remind everyone, if you want to watch us, you can do so on the LBC website at lbc.co.uk, our Facebook page, Twitter feed, and our YouTube channel. Let's move on to Brexit, because that is obviously dominating everything in this campaign. You seem to be the hardest of hard Brexit, no deal candidates. You've purposely pitched yourself as that. How would you deliver on that, though?
No, I'd say I'm the most honest of candidates, explaining what will happen, because people have said they want to come out on the 31st of October. Now, if you want to come out on the 31st of October, we'll have to explain how that will happen. So people who are saying they're going to go back and renegotiate, well, you can't and be out on the 31st of October. 1, because the EU have said they don't want to renegotiate, and 2, you wouldn't get that through the House of Parliament in time. So what I'm doing is being honest with what you can do if we're coming out on the 31st of October. So you're either coming out on the 31st of October without that withdrawal agreement, which the country said no to and Parliament said no to, or you're staying in longer than the 31st of October.
Shouldn't there be a stage in between that? Wouldn't it be the responsible thing to do is to say, look, I'm a new Prime Minister, I am going to go back to Europe, and I'm going to say, look, we appreciate that this deal has already been done, but I'm a new broom, I want to reopen it, and this is what I want to get out of it. And if they say no, well, fair enough, you go down a different route. But surely you've got to have that stage first.
Well, we've been doing that for a long period of time. We had the biggest ever defeat of this withdrawal agreement in the House, and nobody wants it in the House. And you've seen by the EU elections, nobody wants it in the country. What that deal proved was actually it united everybody against it. So what we're going to have to do is pick a side now, and the fairest way to pick a side is the side that won the biggest democratic vote, the referendum in the House, and that is
that's a George Bush type of, well, you're either for us or you're against us.
Because you've got to get through Brexit, deliver Brexit, and then you're going to bring the country back together once we're out of Brexit. Make sure that we deliver on what we've done. I mean, this is about a democratic vote. Now, what do you do in future then? If you're now saying, well, we're not going to adhere to this democratic vote, what do you say? Every vote going forward in the House in the country that, oh, we don't know if we like that, we can't have that. No, we've actually really got to deliver what the people asked us to deliver. We gave them the biggest question ever. We explained what it was. It was a once in a lifetime. We heard all of the Project Fear in 2016, and people still decided they wanted a better future outside the EU.
You know that Parliament, the Speaker, whoever, will do their level best to stop that happening. The only way you could do that would be to prorogue Parliament, which would be a massively controversial thing to do. You'd be bringing the Queen into politics, which I guess no one really wants to do. Are you seriously saying you would take the country down that route?
Well, what we've got to think of, who's brought us to this position. The people who've brought us to this position, ripping up the rule book of democracy, taking us here, has actually been those MPs in the House.
That's ripping up the rules of democracy, isn't it?
But the people who've brought us to this point are the people who have willfully tried to frustrate the democratic vote of the country. So we have to look at their actions, the hypocrisy of their actions. So they've used every tool in the book to frustrate this vote. They've never reconciled with the country, with what people have asked for. And so what you'd have to do as a Prime Minister to deliver that, if still they're threatening these things, you'd have to say, well, we'd have to use every tool in the book to deliver on this.
But I thought the whole point of Brexit was to bring sovereignty back to the UK Parliament, the very Parliament you now say you would prorogue to get us out of the EU.
Sovereignty is about the people. It's about democracy. It's about having say. We are public servants. What, we just don't listen to people anymore? That sounds to me more like a dictatorship if we just don't bother listening to what people say. No, it was a vote. We deliver on that. By October the 31st, it'll be in 3.5 years to deliver on that. And then we come out. Now, what we've got to do, and this is what we've always agreed with, we want a free trade agreement. We want it to work for us. We want it to work for Europe too. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to come out, get the free trade agreement, be a sovereign state. People want to be in control of their laws, their borders, their money, and then move on.
But if we come out and say, well, we're not going to pay you the 39 billion and we're not going to adhere to the terms of the withdrawal agreement, which is a treaty signed by the British Prime Minister, why on earth would they then do a free trade deal with us?
To be fair, they were offering us that at the very beginning.
Well, that was then. This is now.
Yeah, and actually, the withdrawal agreement didn't seem to suit anybody's purposes. Certainly not us here in the UK.
No, but we can't keep looking back. We've got to look to the future now.
That's right.
And if you just think of the psychology of this, if we suddenly say, and we've had Macron already say, well, if Britain doesn't pay us the £39 billion, that's effectively defaulting on sovereign debt. It's the equivalent of that. There would be no trust left. So why would they come come to a free trade agreement with us?
So let's be honest, with the 39 billion, how that splits up, actually, if it went to international courts, it could probably be as low as £9 billion. Equally, we know about, 10-12 billion pounds of that each year was for the implementation period. So if you had stayed in, of course, you'd have to pay for those 2 years. So that would be something that you would be obliged to pay. But if we're not staying in, if we're coming out, that money would be spent at home to help us through coming out, and we could support our own businesses here at home. So you've got to divide that payment out. But Macron isn't right on that.
But if we leave with no deal, then the 39 billion will be the first thing they ask for as soon as we come back to the table, won't it?
No, because what we'd be looking to do as we come out is look for a free trade agreement either way. Because remember,
but why would they say yes to that? That's
I'll tell
what
you for
I don't
why.
understand.
Well, here you go. It's because they sell to us every year 90 billion
but we've heard that
pounds
argument
more
for the last 3 years, and it hasn't affected the negotiations at all, has it?
Because the people going into the negotiations, which is really only come to light recently, is they never really wanted to leave. They saw this Brexit as something to sort of manage to mitigate.
So who would lead your Brexit negotiations?
Well, we'd bring in a team of people who actually believed in Brexit. You'd have top negotiators who do negotiations all the time.
Civil servants or politicians?
We'd bring in business people. We'd bring in top lawyers. We'll bring in top negotiators. And I've also been working with Lord Peter Lilly, who's actually the expert in this field, who also in 1995 helped us with the WTO setting up the organisation. He, with a team of business people, expert negotiators and expert lawyers in this field,
would you bring in Nigel Farage?
What we need to do, if I'm being honest, is make sure that we Brexit. And if we Brexit, we wouldn't need to bring in the Brexit Party because we would actually have got out.
Who would be your Brexit secretary?
I think for the Brexit secretary, well, I think anybody who really does believe in Brexit. And Dominic Raab was there, who believed in it.
Well, he didn't last
I think
long.
David Davis was there. He didn't last long because he was wanting to deliver Brexit, whereas the rest of the cabinet were frustrated.
Who would be your lead negotiator? I mean, I think people would be interested to know who that would be.
No, I think this is different here. The politicians set the scene of where we're going. So Dominic Raab could well be doing that job. I say could well because we're both going for leader of the party.
But he would be your choice as Brexit secretary.
But who I'd have, which is quite separate. So when I went to the business people and spoke to people who do deals for breakfast, lunch, dinner and tea, who own organisations worth billions of pounds, we would go to them and get the world's top negotiators, lawyers, who do this full-time as a job, not a politician or a civil servant.
We'll talk about some other issues in just a second. I'm with Esther McVey. It's 9:20.
This is LBC.
Unlock the city with the new Range Rover Evoque. Know your side streets, from your inner city beats. Know your underbelly and where to fill your belly.
The lamb, madam.
Know your north from your south. Live for the city with the new Range Rover Evoque. Land Rover, above and beyond.
We use the internet all the time. We can't help it. But isn't it annoying when it's, a bit slow? BT Superfast Fibre is so reliable it now comes with its own Stay Fast guarantee, which means we'll give you £20 back if your speed isn't everything you've been promised, morning, noon and night. For fast all the time, not just some of the time, search BT Broadband today, tonight or tomorrow. BT. Be there.
New customers, we guarantee the speed to your hub. £20 if you can't fix in 30 days. 4 claims a year, exclusions apply.
Does it matter to you how your money's invested? Think about it. You've got your own values, but do the people who invest your money share them? With a Wealthify stocks and shares ISA, you can put your money into an ethical plan. Just tell us how you want to invest. Are you cautious, adventurous, or somewhere in between? And start your Wealthify ethical ISA today. Easy. For more information, download the app or visit wealthify.com. With investing, capital is at risk and you could get back less than you put in.
Block management?
Oh, it's a doddle, isn't it? I mean, once you've got budget approval, all you need to do is your service charge invoices,
health and safety regulations paperwork, do the cleaning, the gardening, general maintenance, sort out site inspections, arrange contracts, insurance, emergency representation.
Yes, block management. Such a doddle.
Save time and money and cut down on the stress. For complete block management solutions, just call ABC Estates. ABC will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry.
For complete block management solutions, see abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
With Conservative MPs jockeying for leadership of the party, the nation and Brexit, the task of setting a new course for life outside Europe will be in different hands from late July. Turn to The Telegraph for clarity. Subscribe now at telegraph.co.uk/subscriptions.
It's not just our award-winning Peugeot van range. It's your dog grooming, lift engineering, espresso making, patio building, total and utter beating heart of your business Peugeot van range. Rely on advanced new grip models to tackle tough terrain. Add your personality with stylish new asphalt models. Whatever your business, order an all-new partner, expert or boxer during our Peugeot June van event and get your first main service absolutely free. Master the impossible. On outright purchase van orders only. For full T's and C's visit peugeot.co.uk.
Iain Dale, text 84850. This is LBC.
23 minutes past 9. Esther McVey is here. She's going to take your calls in just a second. Let's go on to some other subjects. We might come back to Brexit in some of the calls. Dominic Raab said he was probably not a feminist. Do you identify as a feminist? Should the next leader be a feminist?
Well, if that means that you go out, do a job, you achieve what you want in life, you believe in social mobility and helping other people and helping, people get on, then yes, I am. But I've never necessarily put a term to me.
Do you support an equal age of consent?
Do I?
Support an equal age of consent.
In what way?
For gay people and straight people.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Do you support the right of gay people to adopt?
Yes, I do.
Do you support equal marriage?
Yes, I do.
So why have you got a problem with relationships education being taught in Birmingham schools?
Well, let's get this right. What I said parents should have a say in is what is age appropriate for their child. I never questioned what that sex and relationship education was about. That wasn't the issue. I was just saying for young primary children, which were 4 and 5, what is taught to them is just what is age appropriate, and who is best to decide that? A parent who knows them or a teacher? And why would we put a teacher in that situation? But what they were being taught, I wasn't questioning.
But they're being taught that there are different sorts of relationships. They're not being taught about any sort of sexual act or anything. So if you accept an equal age of consent, gay adoption, equal marriage, why wouldn't you want children of primary school age to understand that there are different types of relationships?
But that isn't what I was questioning. I agree and embrace LGBT and the relationship and sex education. What I was saying is for a parent to choose what was age appropriate, and that has always been the case. That has been the case. Whilst Labour was in power, that was the case while we've been in power. That has always been the case, that parents choose. And I believe that who knows a child at that age better, parent or the state? And I would say it's the parent.
Do you not think a lot of the parents are driven by either conscious or subconscious homophobia?
Well, look, these are the parents, and, they would have a say over their child. And I'm afraid I'm a conservative here. And I believe in the family, I believe in the individual, I believe in choice, I believe in freedom of expression, and I don't want the state getting involved in these issues for families and very young children. So it's a simple issue, and I believe parents know what's best for their children at that age.
But when you see parents protesting outside schools in this way, obviously being whipped up by activists, I mean, that's not a good place for the education system to be, is it?
No, and I didn't agree with any protests outside of primary school, and I said it quite clearly. Why would anybody be doing that?
What's your view on abortion? Jeremy Hunt says, personally, he would like the limit to be reduced from 24 to 12 weeks. What's your view?
Well, I wouldn't be looking to do that. I know we've debated in the House it being, reduced to 20 weeks, and that was because, a child could exist and survive at 20 weeks. So I think as medical advances occur, there would be changes there. But no, I never sought to reduce that.
I think one of the questions the whole country wants an answer to is, what on earth did you do to Lorraine Kelly?
I had a very fun time at
she clearly can't stand you. Why do you
well,
think that is?
Who knows? Who knows?
You've got no theories that you're going to share with us?
Well, let me see. Well, I've gone off into politics, and maybe she wants to go off into politics. Who knows?
Jealousy?
Oh, well, look, I don't want to get into that. I have happy memories of TV. You've said that, and I had happy memories of TV.
Let's talk a little bit about your time at the DWP, and you were also, before that, Minister for Disabled People. You've had a huge amount of criticism for your policies on universal credit, on benefits more generally. A lot of people, since they knew that you were coming on the programme, a lot of people said, are you going to ask her to apologise for her time at the DWP? Why do you think they want you to apologise?
Well, let's... I came into the DWP in 2012, and obviously these policies that you're talking about predate me. Ian Duncan Smith, David Cameron, George Osborne. And what they set about doing was making the system better than it was before. And universal credit, if we're talking about that, needed to come in place to update a failing benefit system that was there. And that was because it locked people out of work at 18 hours, 24 hours and 30 hours. And the number of people under Labour, the number of workless households had doubled, whereas we have now got 3.5 million more people into work. And at the same time, they introduced a new benefit called PIP from DLA, because DLA looked fundamentally at physical disabilities and not a whole range of cognitive or sensory. And actually, PIP is paying out now more than we paid out under DLA. It's increased every year since, and it's helping and supporting people. So whilst the policies and the support and what we've done is right, what I will apologise for is for people where it hasn't worked for them. I understand that, but a system that we deal with 22 million people a year, you're never going to have, particularly not a benefit system which is 100% right. So where it goes wrong,
20% of people on universal credit, the system isn't working for them. Now you can say 80% it is working for, but 20% is a hell of a lot of people.
A lot. It's working for, because when you put it at 80% like that, you talk about when they get it within however many days. But what you've done with universal credit, you've also brought in housing benefits, and you've also brought in tax credits and things like housing benefits you wouldn't have got in 5 days. But what we've done to make this better is, you're quite right, you've got to constantly get it better and better and better and as best as you possibly can. That's why there was always a slow rollout. But what I introduced and helped make sure you can get money at day one. If you need something straight away, you can get it straight away. I also fought for 8 months to reverse most of those changes of 2016. That was George Osborne, which fundamentally was IDS, Ian Duncan Smith resigned, taking that extra money out. I fought to bring that back in to make sure that UC did what it should be doing.
Just very briefly on this, because I'm sure we'll get some questions on it as well. Christine in West Yorkshire has texted, does Esther remember closing the Remploy factories because the families of the victims have not forgotten?
Mm-hmm. So, again, this had happened and I came in as those closures were happening. And what I did is I went right round all of those factories to try and speak to as many people as possible. And on the back of that, I thought, what are we going to do to help the most vulnerable? So yes, I do remember this, and actually I remember it very, very vividly, and that's why I went round and met people in their house too to talk about it. It was on the back of that I set up something known as Disability Confident, because I wanted to make sure that we could help disabled people into work. I got businesses together, I got government together, I got individuals together, we worked on that. I started that in 2013 because of what we were doing with Remploy. Now 1 million nearly disabled people are into work. So I'm hoping that from something like that closing Remploy, which I, yes, came in, but it wasn't something that I'd brought in. But yes, I did. I was then part of the team. Actually, no. And I'll tell you for why.
Well, you're the Secretary of State.
No, I wasn't. I was the junior minister. And I'll tell you for why, because I came in part way through. Because what was happening in some of those Remploy factories, some of them, right, had a turnover of, say, £75,000 a year, but actually spent £1 million keeping it open. And we said, how are we now, instead of that money going into what would be seen as a non-profitable business, a business that wasn't working, how do we spend that £1 million on the people who are there? What do we do? And that's why because I thought, what am I going to do, Esther? I did. I thought, what am I going to do? And that's why I set up Disability Confident.
Right, we're going to take your calls in a second. First, though, a text saying, are you going to get Boris on the air? We expect a reply on the air right now. Get on with it. Well, I will get on with it. Boris Johnson has exactly the same invitation to do these hours as all of the other 9 candidates have who've accepted them. And I hope Boris Johnson will accept that invitation at some stage between now and the end of the contest. It's 9:33, news headlines with David Dom.
Rory Stewart says people face a choice between fantasy and reality over delivering Brexit as he launches his Conservative leadership bid. Earlier, Andrea Leadsom and Mark Harper disagreed about whether it will be possible for the UK to leave the EU by the new October 31st deadline. Oxfam has apologised for what it's described as shameful actions following an inquiry into employee behaviour. The Charity Commission found it failed to properly report accusations of child sexual abuse following the 2010 Haiti earthquake. And survivors and people who lost relatives in the Grenfell Tower are suing 3 companies in the US over the disaster. One of them is Whirlpool, which made the fridge freezer in the flat where it's thought the fire started. The company insists its products are safe. LBC Weather, windy and wet. Rain continues across Wales, the Midlands and Northern England tonight. Dry in Scotland and the south, a low of 6 degrees.
This is LBC.
Psst. Did you know that Pimlico Plumbers have an utterly fabulous 24-hour service for plumbing, heating, drains, roofing, electrics, appliances, carpentry and building? Whatever your predicament, Pimlico Plumbers can send a friendly face to your door within the hour. Shh! And just between us, their work even comes with a 12-month guarantee. They aren't just any old tradesmen, they're Pimlico Plumbers, and they're always available on 0207 928 8888 or at pimlicoplumbers.com.
Looking for your perfect kitchen? Visit roomsense.co.uk.
Quality at a price you can afford. That's Room Sense.
With Conservative MPs jockeying for leadership of the party, the nation and Brexit, the task of setting a new course for life outside Europe will be in different hands from late July. Turn to The Telegraph for clarity. Subscribe now at telegraph.co.uk/subscriptions.
Get Vodafone's double data deal this summer. We're giving away double data on all pay monthly smartphones. Yes, all pay monthly smartphones. Now a huge 30 gig for the price of 15, starting at only £30 a month. Double the selfie sharing, double the playlist pumping, and double the maps mapping. To get double data, go online or in-store today. The future's exciting. Ready? Vodafone. Terms and details at vodafone.co.uk/summer. Ends 9th of July.
So, Mark told me about Hiring Hub. The best kept secret in recruitment, he said.
Yeah?
They help you find quality candidates and fill professional jobs fast. Gets great reviews too.
So, you're going to go for it?
Is he single?
Not with Mark, with Hiring Hub.
I posted an IT job a few days ago. Interviewing 4 people tomorrow.
Want to fill professional jobs faster? Search Hiring Hub and post your job today.
Is he though? Single?
Rosa!
Some things are never coming back. Like avocado bathrooms, dinosaurs, and fingers crossed, the mullet. But a lost credit card, they often turn up. Thankfully, with a simple tap, the NatWest app lets you lock your card if you misplace it and unlock it if you find it. We're always thinking of new ways to make it easier to control your banking. Search NatWest Easier Banking. NatWest, we are what we do.
MasterCard credit cards only. App eligibility criteria applies.
Some people find love par chance. I found love in my Citroën dealership. I looked at new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV with advanced comfort seats, and boom! They said, pay £1,794 up front, then £299 a month for 35 months. I love it. Visit your local Citroën dealership and find love too. New Citroën C5 Aircross SUV.
Citroën.
Citroën UK Limited, a credit broker, not a lender. Offer on PureTech 136-speed manual, 10,000 miles per annum. You won't own the car. Personal contract hire terms, eligibility and return conditions apply. PSA Finance UK Limited.
This is LBC with Iain Dale. Call 0345 6060 973.
9:37. Esther McVey is here taking your calls. Matt Hancock will be here tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock to do the very same thing. Somebody's texted, I would like to ask Esther McVey a question regarding the disability benefits. Would it be better if I phoned instead of texted? Yes. 0345 6060 973. You can watch us on Facebook, on the LBC website at lbc.co.uk and Twitter. Chris is in Paris. Hi, Chris.
Good evening. A question for you, Esther. You have talked about needing to rebuild trust with people. How can you seriously talk about trust with a straight face after you were accused of misleading Parliament by the National Audit Office head about the rollout of universal credit, Esther?
Right, so Chris, what happened here was I had the complete substance correct, hence I kept my job. Obviously, but what I did is said some of the words wrong, and so I personally.
Sorry, how can you say substance? How can you say substance when they were saying that the benefit should be paused, the rollout should be paused, and you were saying it should be accelerated? Now, I'm an auditor, and I don't think it's rocket science to interpret an audit report. I'm sorry to say, I think you're flouting me here, and the people listening to this programme, Esther. I really don't believe that at all.
Well, let her finish her response.
Well, thank you. And the reason I kept my job, as I said, because the substance was correct. And what I did say was speed it up when it should have been slowed down. And so knowing that I'd said the words wrong, I put in a request to the Speaker, which is what you do. I wasn't called to the House by anybody else. I personally said, look, I've got this wrong. You put a request in. And then I came to the floor of the House and I said, mea culpa, I've done this. And therefore, I am now going to put the record straight on what I did. So actually, I'd say out of most things, that shows that I am honest and trustworthy. Not often do MPs come to the floor of the House to actually apologise for what they've done, and I did.
But, I mean, that can't be put down to misspeaking, can it? If you say accelerating rather than pausing. I mean, they're two diametrically opposed things.
What they were saying was that, it had been slow in its delivery, because obviously it's not just one page, this document. There are many pages in the document, so read it through, in its entirety, and that was one of the things. And I said, well, if it's been slow in its rollout, it needs to be speeded up, and therefore that then wasn't right on what we said.
Okay.
And so I came forward and said, please, can I come to the House? I will correct this. But what the substance on was different on sort of whether the effects of the benefit changes had been felt. So it was a different matter.
Chris, quick response.
To be honest, I find that astonishing. I write audit reports for a living, and I can't believe you interpreted that. I don't believe you either read the report, to be honest with you, or you deliberately lied to Parliament. I'm sorry, I just simply don't buy that. I really don't. Sorry.
Well, but Chris, that's perfectly fine. And that's obviously what I did with those words that I got wrong. But obviously the fact that I kept my job, and the fact that obviously I came to the House, and the fact that the substance was right, showed one was misspoken, as you will. And that's why I came to the House and I asked to correct the record.
Chris, thank you. Let's go to Danuta, who's in Letchworth Garden City. Hello.
Hi, Esther. I would love to see you as a leader. You're a clear thinker, a clear communicator, you're authentic and a common sense candidate. I've got a bit of an awkward question for you, Esther. If you weren't standing for the leadership, which of the other candidates would you most trust to deliver Brexit by the 31st of October?
Good question.
Well, I'm not. I'm not going to answer that. I hope you don't mind. I know I'm a clear thinker, and I know I'm a straight talker. Because we're now just in the throes, and the votes will be taking place on Thursday.
You can't call yourself a straight talker if you won't answer the question.
Well, the straightness is I won't be answering the questions. So they're straight. I'll tell you for why. Because the vote is on Thursday. We've got all of the hustings this week, and people will be looking to vote, and so obviously I can tell you afterwards, or or whatever, but just not now, because it's a very sensitive time just before the rest of the hustings start, because it alters and sways the vote for other people. So I will do it if you don't mind.
Shall I answer it for
afterwards.
you? Because I reckon you'll vote for Dominic Raab if you get knocked out.
Well, there you go. It's for you to say, and I am not saying anything.
All right, I'm sorry. I failed you, Danuta.
Sorry, I feel I've let you down as well. Sorry.
I accept that.
Oh,
right,
thank you.
thank you very
For
much.
being so kind and accepting that. Thank you.
You're more kind than I would be.
Yeah.
Raju,
I see she's
Raju is in Birmingham. Raju, what's your question, please?
Oh, well, I've got a few questions.
Oh, no, one only, because I've got so many people who want to get on the air, Raju. Go on.
Well, okay. About how do you feel about Johnson's tax cuts and about the PIP benefit is basically, well, why do we have to fill in stupid questions on the PIP form?
Well, that's two questions. Let's go with the Boris one first. He wants to increase the rate that you pay the high rate of tax at from 50,000 to 80,000 at a cost of £9.6 billion. Your view on that?
Well, obviously we're a party that likes to have ensure we have low taxes to make sure that people keep more of the hard-earned money. And the reason, there is a logic to that. The high rate tax used to take into it about 1.7 million people. It's now, we've got 4 million people paying into a higher rate tax because it's not moved up accordingly. So he's just saying if it's a higher rate tax, it should be taxing those people. But I've taken a different path in what I'm doing. I've said I want to put money into police, into schools, and I want to give public sector a pay rise. So I haven't looked that regard to doing. I haven't looked to do tax cuts. No, I've looked to do what is the immediate thing we need to do, and that for me is support schools, to support police, and to give the public sector pay, guaranteed pay guarantee.
And the PIP form, can you make it easier?
Well, the PIP form, really, if you are going to get a benefit, and it doesn't matter where it is, you've got to show that you are entitled to a benefit. This is an ongoing payment, and so there will always be checks to make sure that you are entitled to that benefit. It's only fair because we are paying for those people who need it.
Because it is quite extensive, isn't it? Could it not be simplified?
Well, we don't want to. I think what we've looked at there is make it, as you're quite right, simple as possible. Make sure that it is focused at the people who need it. And the other thing that I introduced is not doing it if we have enough corroborating medical evidence, not having to do it repeatedly if we can see that you need the benefit and you've got this corroborating medical evidence. But usually on the first application, you will need to go through a thorough test.
We will take more of your calls in a moment. Let's just go to a quick break. Esther McVey is here. Don't forget, if you can watch us, I know a lot of you like doing that on our YouTube channel via the LBC website at lbc.co.uk. It's coming up to 9:45.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, Tom Swarbrick.
MPs are once again working cross-party to make no deal impossible. Rory Stewart tonight says no deal is a fantasy. Is the no deal unicorn being put down?
Tom Swarbrick on LBC. Global Player.
The brand new app.
Radio, playlists and podcasts.
Missed your favourite show from LBC?
Wherever you are, you can download or stream to listen again.
Whenever you want.
Tackling the biggest stories and the issues that matter.
Global Player. Download it from your app store now.
Unlock the city with the new Range Rover Evoque. Know your side streets. From your inner city beats. Know your underbelly. And where to fill your belly.
Your lamb, madam.
Know your north. From your south. Live for the city with the new Range Rover Evoque. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Some things should never be seen together, like socks and sandals, or grown-ups and micro-scooters. But your bank accounts, that's another matter. The NatWest app lets you see balances and transactions from your current accounts in one trusted place, even if they're with other banks. We're always thinking of new ways to make managing your money easier. Search NatWest Easier Banking. NatWest, we are what we do.
Backed by current account switch guarantee, app eligibility criteria applies. Selected UK banks. You must be registered for other banks' online banking.
If you have high blood pressure, please listen closely. If you struggle to control your blood pressure with tablets and are taking 3 or more blood pressure medications, you may be interested in a new clinical research study at St Bart's Hospital in London. The study is evaluating a device-based procedure to lower blood pressure and potentially reduce or eliminate the need for blood pressure medications. To learn more, please visit www.bpstudy.org.uk. That's www.bpstudy.org.uk.
We use the internet all the time. We can't help it. But isn't it annoying when it's, a bit slow? BT Superfast Fibre is so reliable it now comes with its own Stay Fast guarantee, which means we'll give you £20 back if your speed isn't everything you've been promised, morning, noon and night. For fast all the time, not just some of the time, search BT Broadband today, tonight or tomorrow. BT. Be there.
New customers, we guarantee the speed to your hub. £20 if you can't fix in 30 days. 4 claims a year, exclusions apply.
I want to live in a world where we still have polar bears, where we reduce CO2 emissions. I want to live in a beautiful world.
If you want to help fight climate change, get a smart meter. They can't solve climate change on their own, but with the smarter, more energy-efficient grid they help to create, they're a start. Search I Want a Smart Meter or call 0300 131 5555 today from the Campaign for a Smarter Britain.
Eligibility may vary. Available in England, Scotland and Wales. Calls from UK landlines and mobiles charged at a standard rate.
Leading Britain's conversation. Iain Dale. Tweet at LBC.
It's 9:47. Esther McVey is here. Let's carry on with your questions because I'm going to try and fit in at least 4, maybe even 5. Nick is in Slough. Hello, Nick.
Hiya, Ian. Hiya, Esther.
Hiya.
Yeah, hi. I'm going to step away from Brexit for just a moment. My question to you is, Esther, we've seen a lot of controversy today and yesterday, and rightly so, over the disgraceful decision to axe free TV licence to over 75s from the BBC. So, if you were to become our Prime Minister, would you stop this? Would you even go further and scrap the BBC licence fee altogether, or would you allow this? Because I think it's a total disgrace.
Well, I have to say, the BBC did a deal, and that deal was they could increase the licence fee, but they had to, which they were going to do, is look after people over the age of 75 and they wouldn't have to pay their licence fee. So you can't now say we're not going to do that. And for somebody who's worked at the BBC, I was quite ashamed of that decision there. They are the public service broadcaster and they should now be giving a public, a public service. So you can't welsh on a deal like that and not give those people a free TV licence.
But hang on a second, Nick. Just to be devil's advocate on this.
I'm hiring him up. He's very quiet. Let's see if I can hear you. Yeah?
Right, are you okay?
I think so, yeah.
Just to play devil's advocate on this. If the BBC hadn't done this, they would have had to close quite a few different channels. Now, there would have been an outcry over that. Why shouldn't over 75s have to pay a TV licence when they're the ones that probably watch most television? Also, they are the richest generation.
I'm loving you playing devil's advocate, but when the BBC signed up to do this and they got
they were
the ability...
forced to sign it by your predecessor as MP for Tatton, George Osborne, weren't they?
Well, I don't know. They'd gone into negotiations. It's a big organisation. They chose to take this path, and now a couple of years down the line, when George Osborne isn't here, maybe that he's not around, they think they can welsh on a deal. Nobody works like that.
So, would you give a commitment as Prime Minister to force that decision to be reversed? I'm not sure how you could actually, but
well, they
that's
have
what Nick
to
wants.
do a full explanation on why they're not doing it, or what do we do? Do we take the licence fee back down to the levels that it were before they said they were? It could go up and they would give people a free licence. No, you can't do that. You don't do that.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. Sam is in Chelmsford. Sam, what would you like to ask?
Hi there, Ian. Hi there, Esther. I'm currently employed on one of the biggest infrastructure projects in Europe, which is HS2. Where do I and the thousands of others go when we lose our jobs when it's scrapped under your leadership?
Mm-hmm. So, High Speed 2 isn't working as a project. I don't think the business case has ever been made. But what I do believe we need is the link from Liverpool right the way across to Newcastle. I'll call that the Northern Powerhouse Rail. So what we could do is, you've got those engineering skills, you've got those skills, you were going to work on another line. Couldn't you now instead go straight away? Yes, and people commute to work to different places.
What, to Liverpool or Newcastle?
Well, don't you think, like I did for 20 years, came down and worked in London and commuted?
How do you fancy that, Sam?
So, no, because it would be a project and people go and work on project, and if it isn't that one, there are so many other... we need such more infrastructure, roads and rail. I'm quite sure that Sam, with obviously his abilities, we could do something which just high speed.
But do you not think it's gone beyond the point of no return now? Because billions of pounds have been spent on this so far. Are we just going to say, OK, well, we've wasted $9 billion on the NHS computer, we'll waste another $4 billion on HS2?
No. I think so far, I believe $4 billion has been spent. But when you look at the figures for 2015, they said it's about $57 billion. You now, actually, if you go to the Taxpayers Alliance, they say it's looking more like $104 billion. In fact, by the time it's built, 2037, it could be $200 billion. So actually, that £4 billion to prove the project doesn't work, you don't throw good money after bad. But I'm sure there is something from the studies they've done of the land, of various other things, there could be something that could be used from that. And other things they did, they've bought up a lot of properties up and down the country, and those properties still have a value and obviously should be and could be sold back, so some of the money could be recouped there. But I'm afraid if it's a bad project, it's a bad project, and you don't keep spending money away. But would Sam accept a job, a project work, any other part of the country to use his skills?
Well, yes, I would, but Liverpool and Newcastle was a bit of a commute for me, to be honest.
Yeah, but obviously we'd put you up for, you'd put you up for the week. We'd look after you.
Just make sure it's not in the Adelphi. Oh no, I mustn't say that because I got into trouble last time. I was slagged off the Adelphi Hotel in Liverpool. But anyway,
look, can I tell you? I think once you'd been up there, Sam, once you'd tasted the highlights of Liverpool life, Cheshire life, Manchester life,
hang on a minute.
You might actually decide you want to move up there full time.
You are yet another one of these people from Liverpool who think it's so fantastic you don't live there anymore.
I now live in Cheshire.
And I'm not slagging off Liverpool,
well, I love Liverpool, but unfortunately I'm a Conservative and there ain't many of them in Liverpool, so to do my job as a politician, I'm not there. But look, we could obviously use your skills and expertise. There is lots of infrastructure across the country that's going to be needed, and we can do that for you. Sam, we've got you a job. It was just an opportunity to sample the North.
Thank you, Sam. Let's go to Harrison in Lewisham. Harrison, what would you like to say?
Hi. I just want to ask Esther, how can she claim that there's any democratic mandate for no deal, especially considering she wants to prorogue Parliament to do it? Please don't point to the June 2016 referendum, because Liam Fox said getting the trade deal would be the easiest in human history. Obviously, it's come about that won't be able to happen, and she wants to force it through without consulting Parliament. How's that democratic?
Okay. Well, I'm not looking to prorogue Parliament. What I'm saying is that you'd need to use all of the tools at your disposal to make sure that the democratic vote of the people was seen and was put into place. So that's what we're needing to do.
So can you guarantee that you won't prorogue Parliament?
Well, you won't be guaranteeing anything at the moment.
So you can't guarantee it?
But what we're saying, and you have to look at why we're at this situation, it's because MPs in Parliament have absolutely gone against the will of the people. They've tried to thwart it, frustrate it in every way. So actually it's the people trying to reverse the vote of the public that has brought us to this. What we've now got to do is make sure we deliver this democratic vote, and we've got to be out by the 31st of October, and that is what I would pursue.
Okay.
But I think you really have to look at the MPs who have decided that they know better than the public.
Harrison, thank you. Let's go to Graham in Erith. Hello, Graham.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. What would you like to ask?
Well, Esther, I was the guy who got up on the stage yesterday, and I apologise if I frightened you. One,
did he?
I'll say this. Well, the first thing I'll say to you is that I allowed you to finish your speech because
Yes,
I wanted
you
you
did.
to make your speech.
Thank you.
And it has been reported that I interrupted your speech. Well, I certainly would not do that. And the second thing that was reported was that I snatched the mic, which is difficult to do when it's attached to the lectern. I just want to say to you that the reason I got up on that stage is I am a passionate constitutionalist. I do not believe in left or right politics. And my question to you is quite simple. Why have you used the Constitution with a prorogue, but you will not talk about this case that is in the High Court, been placed there by Robin Tilbrook, has been crowdfunded by normal everyday people of £1, £5, £10, not, and I repeat this, not by investment bankers. We have raised over £200,000 for that case, and the fake news media was wall-to-wall with Gina Miller. Every MP was talking about the case, and now we've got a situation, this is the bit that's upset people, and especially me, is the government are spending over £1 million of taxpayers' money.
Listen, we can't, Graham. I don't want to cut you off, really, but I'm going to because we've literally got 90 seconds left. I think you've made the main point that you wanted to make, Esther.
Yeah. No, you're right. You didn't frighten me. You didn't interrupt my speech. You were obviously polite.
You looked rather amused, actually.
And what he was saying is that really we should have already come out on the 29th of March.
Well, he thinks we have, and that's what this Robin
exactly,
Tilbrook case is all about.
Exactly. And so he was saying everything else is fake news. We should be out. And equally his point, why aren't we hearing about this case? Because we should have been out. So I hope his message is come across. And no, I didn't feel threatened by you. And obviously you wanted to make that case. And I think people need to understand that. There is a lot of people saying, why aren't we out? And this is where the trust has been broken between public and the politicians. And we've got to get that sorted.
Paul says, Esther, stick to your guns. Your views represent the real people who live in the real world. The North are behind you. If you're going to unite the country, you need the South behind you as well, don't you?
We need both. And you know what? The South is a powerhouse. The North needs to be a powerhouse. And if both of the engines on the GB, your UK plane, are flying, we will soar.
OK, Esther, thank you very much indeed. Well, tomorrow we have Matt Hancock at 9. On Thursday, Sajid Javid at 9 as well. They'll be taking your calls too. If you missed any of these interviews, you can catch them all on the LBC YouTube channel. I'll be back tomorrow from 7. Coming up at 1, it's Darren Adam. Next, Tom Swarbrick.
Ian, thank you very much indeed. Welcome to the show. Tonight at 10, watching a unicorn die.
What they are telling you is fairy stories. They're giving you exactly what I read every evening to my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old.
Conservative candidate Rory Stewart hits out at the fantasy of a no-deal Brexit as today a cross-party group of MPs seek to once again block the government from taking us out of the EU without a deal. And yet,
leaving the EU on the 31st of October is, for me, a hard red line.
a number of Stewart's rivals for PM cling to the hope of delivering no deal on the 31st of October.